Welcome to episode 258 of the official GonnaGeek.com show. This episode, we talk about Repairgate with Apple, how Facebook's launching a new spying tool, and how there's a goblin in space. Plus, I'm heartbroken about how podcast spam is no longer available in Google+. This and more in this week's show.
I'm Amos, host of Undaunted, a proud member of the Gonna Geek Network, just like the show you're listening to now. The opinions expressed are those of each individual host. Check out all the other podcasts at GonnaGeekNetwork.com and get ready, because geekiness begins in 3, 2, 1.
This is the official GonnaGeek.com show. Here we're a bunch of geeks talking about geeky things. Each week we run down the latest news and happenings in the world of geek. These are your hosts for the show, Steven.
But what if I'm in the mood for a T-Swift story?
Chris.
I've heard the X is going to give it to you.
And SP.
That's how we roll on Gonna Geek on Monday night. We get crazy!
Gonna Geek Productions presents the official GonnaGeek.com show.
Welcome to episode 258 of the official GonnaGeek.com show. I am Stephen John Drew, and with me, of course, is Chris Farrell.
And I am hashtag unverified.
We also have joining us Stargate Pioneer.
It's been a great week. My son rebuilt his PC. I'm beginning to rebuild my son's engine in the car that blew up last year. I demolished a wooden play set. And I flew my drone over the weekend. Now I'm podcasting. It's been a good week.
Did you fly your drone into something? That's the question of the hour.
No, I didn't. I'm a very accomplished drone pilot at this point in time. Matter of fact, I was even asked to do some flips. And I did them.
You did flips?
You're tempting fate right there.
Wow.
You just said you're accomplished. That means you've just cursed yourself. Karmic justice, man. Anytime. No, I found it myself. Anytime I think I've got something licked and I'm good to go, the next time I do it, I'm not good to go anymore. So I hope you are not lucky like me.
We all hope that we're not like you.
Okay, that's a fair statement.
I didn't say which drone I was doing flips with, though.
I was going to say you totally did it with the Bebop, didn't you?
Yep, the Bebop.
Yeah.
It's got that easy double tap flip function on it. It's all good.
I actually keep meaning to do that with the Bebop. I haven't done it yet. I totally have meant to charge it up. I actually was just thinking about that the other day, that I should go and get the Bebop going again. It's been a while.
You're going to have to do an update.
Yay. How exciting. All right. Well, when we're not talking drones, we're also talking other geeky stuff, and we're part of the Gonna Geek Network. If you want to check that out at GonnaGeekNetwork.com, you really should. Right now is a great time to get in on a bunch of the other amazing geeky podcasts that are out there, because guess what? A lot of them are focused around some form of entertainment, like television shows and whatnot, and a lot of those are about to kick back up. So check that out at GonnaGeekNetwork.com, including the Starling Tribune, which you can guarantee is going to be the #1 fan Arrow cast ever, because they love Arrow the most out of everybody in the world.
Well, Chris, I think the hosts of the Starling Tribune really love Legends of Tomorrow more than anything else. Definitely more than Arrow.
That's what I had heard. Now, maybe I just heard incorrectly, or maybe it's just an alternative fact or something like that. I'm not sure.
You should probably figure that out, because if you don't figure it out, how am I going to advertise legally that you are the #1 fans of Arrow?
That's pretty easy.
Yeah, I mean, you could just lie.
No, it's totally true. I mean, even though we like Legends of Tomorrow better than Arrow, we are the #1 Arrow fans.
All right. Well, I know a thing or two about lying. Like, we got a great show ahead of us. All right, first up in the news here. This one is, of course, coming out of the world of Chris Farrell. That's right. Chris Farrell is always waiting to do something like this. He's just a hater. Like some people call other people Apple what do you call it? Sympathizers or apologists or whatever you want to call it. Call them. This here is the opposite of that. He looks for everything that he can do to hate Apple. What do you got, Chris?
Look, I know where my bread is buttered. Steven likes it when we talk about things that Apple has screwed up. And if I ever hope to get a paycheck, I gotta keep making Steven happy. So I'm telling this story to get my paycheck, boss. Is that okay?
You're not getting paid. Legally saying that right now. It's in the contract.
I didn't sign a contract.
That's not what you said a couple of weeks ago. You said you were going to pay him like a Canadian penny or something like that.
Well, I already did.
It's the principle of it.
I already sent it. It's in the mail.
Oh, well, we're really hosed then. Speaking of things that are hosed, though, let's talk about Apple's new stance that they're taking with their current MacBook products. Now, we all know Apple's been known for proprietary tech, proprietary products, wanting to funnel everyone to the Apple stores to go and do repairs and things like that. Well, they have taken it a step further with the current MacBook, which ships with Apple's proprietary T2 chip. According to a new report from Motherboard, the company has deployed a new software that needs to be run on new Macs with the T2 chip after certain repairs. What does this mean? Well, if you don't run the software right after the repair, which is only available to Apple and its authorized repair partners, your device will then become inoperative. Motherboard reports the software lock applies to any repair, which involves replacing a MacBook Pro's display assembly, logic board, top case, that's the keyboard, the touchpad, and the internal housing, the Touch ID board, and for iMac Pros, you'll need a tool for replacing the logic board or flash storage. It's troublesome. It's troublesome. MacRumors had some details also and said, for Macs with the Apple T2 chip, the repair process is not complete for certain part replacements until the AST2 system configuration suite has been run. Failure to perform this step will result in an inoperative system and an incomplete repair. This is from an internal document that MacRumors found. Essentially, it means your Mac is broken. If you're trying to fix it yourself, you have to take it to Apple or an Apple authorized center, not an independent repair center, because they will not be able to run this code that works on the T2 chip. It's a big problem. Laptops are becoming more and more expensive. People are wanting to try and find ways to get a little more life out of that. It could be they go to their independent repair center and be like, hey, my battery's starting to act up. You guys replace it for me. Or I dropped something and I shattered my screen. Can you guys replace it for me? And it's tedious, but it's not unheard of for someone to be able to go into a laptop, be it a Mac or a Windows one, and replace an LCD monitor or something like that. But now Apple's kind of locked you down. You have to go to either the Apple Store or one of their authorized repair centers, which are becoming less and less prominent. So, guys, am I the only one that looked at this, scratched my head and went, man, this feels kind of anti-consumer to me?
Not at all. So in the past few years, I've replaced screens. I've replaced on laptops, screens, motherboards, of course, memory, hard drives, and just about anything else, even keyboards. I've replaced it all, and I've done it on my own with parts that I've ordered, and I've fixed the laptops without having to take it to a $200 repair center. I can't believe in this day and age when I have to pay a god-awful amount for an iPhone XS cost that I will have to pay hundreds of dollars to take my Apple computer into a Apple store or authorized service center in order to repair it. Sorry, one of the many reasons I do not own an Apple computer.
Yeah, I just gotta say that this is bizarre. Like, why do this? It's one thing to be like, okay, well, there's never going to be any further support. It's another to actually like lock people out. I don't agree with this. I think that it's horse manure, and I just it's another strike in the negative Apple column.
It's a tough sell.
I've even repaired my iPhone 4s and 6s on my own. Yes, you have to buy some specific screwdrivers to get in there. You have to have the right parts, and you have to make sure you know what you're doing before you get in there, and you're avoiding any warranty once you get in there, but at least you can do it yourself. This is just stupid. I'm glad I do not have an Apple computer.
Can you imagine the iFixit score that's going to get assigned to the new MacBook now? This might be their first ever 0. I don't know if they've actually done a 0, but I don't know of any. But
it's a good point.
Albert Sims brings up a good point in the chat room, though. He said, not that I'd ever buy an Apple product, but the closest thing we have in this area to an Apple store is the local Best Buy. This is what I don't know. Someone who has a Mac, let me know. Is Best Buy an authorized repair center for Apple or not? Is Geek Squad able to, on Apple's blessing, take apart Apple computers, laptops, reassemble them, and have all the right parts and certifications to do that work? I don't know. If they aren't, it causes a bigger problem because Albert said the only thing that's nearby for him is a Best Buy. If I wanted to go to the Apple store, the closest one to me is an hour and 45 minutes away. I'm not sure I want to take my laptop there to spend $400 or whatever for repair, to twiddle my thumbs and hope it gets done by the end of the day, to then drive an hour and 45 minutes back to my house. I might mail it in if that works, but then I'm without a computer for a couple weeks. I just don't understand the move here. I don't know how you spin it as, here's why this is good for you. We're doing this so that you're protected. What's the protection? You've basically taken all repairability that I could do on my own away from me.
This is not like a Tesla, like one of the high-end electrical cars that you have to take into a Tesla service center in order to change. You or have maintenance done or whatever. You can do maintenance on your own computers, on your own laptops. Yes, not everybody has the skills, the patience, the talent, whatever, but it is feasible to do on your own. With a Tesla, if you don't want a Tesla, you just get another kind of car from another dealership and you go do that. And that's exactly what people are going to do here, is they're going to get other laptops that are Windows or Chrome or whatever in order to be able to have to maintain them over time. Most people that fiddle with technology don't own Apple computers anyway. Or if they do it because work has it or whatever, but they don't actually own it on their own. You can't get as great as performance. You can't actually get in there and tweak little things on your own. In some cases, the hard drives are hardwired in there, so you have to go to a service center in order to get additional storage. Versus me, I can clone a hard drive and slap a new one in that's got bigger storage and be a better performance from a hard spin HDD to an SDD or an M.2 drive. I've done all that on my own, and it is feasible to do it on your own, and Apple is not letting you do it. Big mistake, guys.
Well,
big mistake.
You couldn't really do it easily on a Apple laptop as it is, the way they solder in the hard drives and stuff like that. It's if you buy a MacBook nowadays, there's not much that's user replaceable. It used to be you could replace the RAM, but I believe that's even soldered in now. So the bigger penalty here is this is punishing Joe Student who drops his MacBook and wants to take it to the local computer repair place to be like, hey, I need you guys to replace an LCD or replace my power supply port because I dropped it with it plugged in and it bent. Now these guys can't do that anymore. That's what I think their intent is try and funnel everyone to authorized Apple repair centers, and they'll spin it as saying, this is how you get the premium care for your product. No, it's how you funnel me back into giving you more money to fix my computer. And why do people go to these independent folks? A, they're generally local small businesses, and B, they're cheaper.
Yes, totally.
Apple repair costs, if you go to the Genius Bar to get something fixed, it's not cheap by all accounts from what I've read. Now, granted, I've never taken something to the Genius Bar, but I've read the accounts of people that have done so on Twitter, and generally it's a positive customer experience, but it's a negative wallet experience, if that makes sense.
How much was the battery changes on the iPhones before they came out with the whole, we are actually changing our software so your battery dies faster, and then everybody had to rush to get a new battery? I know it's $30 now, but what was it before? Was it $80, $120, something like that?
Yeah, I just found it. It was $333,000 is what it was. $333,000. So.
Well, that's Canadian money, okay. So it's like, I don't know, $250 American.
That's fair. Well, anyways, we'll see what happens, because in the chat, Suncast said he suspects a lawsuit, and I don't see how you wouldn't have a lawsuit if they've programmed something to not allow you to basically fix it, right? Like it's a computer. So we'll see what happens.
Before we jump off that, I'd like to ask all of our Gonna Geek listeners, if you have an Apple laptop now, send us a tweet or something. Does this change for MacBooks make you more or less inclined to get an Apple laptop going forward rather? For me, it would be less inclined, but I'm told I'm a negative Apple fanboy, so there is that.
You are a hater.
I'm a hater. I've been drinking the Haterade. That's what's in my Super Mario Brothers cup right here, is the Haterade.
Well, next up in the news, we have a new device that should bring lots of love to companies and advertisers everywhere. That's right. If you have been waiting for a very long time, and I'm assuming that the answer is yes, of course, because why would the answer not be yes to this question? If you have been waiting for a long time for another device that Facebook could undermine your life and know all about it, you're in luck. You are in luck because Facebook has brought out a device just for you. That's right. Today, Facebook announced that they have started pre-sales for a new hardware line called Portal. I feel like we've talked about something called Portal before on here.
We have talked about another product, I believe.
So weird, so bizarre. Anyways, this is a device that Facebook has that is called Portal and Portal Plus. They're really similar to like an Echo Show, let's be honest. They're a device that's meant to be in your living space or your kitchen and allows you to interact with it. It's actually going to have the capability to use the Amazon Voice Services, Alexa. It's also apparently eventually going to have support for Google Assistant, and it has video chat capabilities, again, just like the Echo Show does. There's a mic and a camera, and pre-sales for the 10-inch Portal are $199, and for the Portal Plus with a 15.6-inch swiveling hi-fi audio device, it's going to be $349. Now you can get $100 off if you buy two of those Portal Pluses. So you get $100 off between the two of them for your $700 purchase.
But you get a 4-inch woofer on each device.
There you
That's
go.
Wow, 4 whole inches in that woofer.
4 inches of fury.
Yes. So here's the thing. There's actually some okay features with this, to be honest. If you take a look, they're going to have of course, Hey Portal navigation system, but it's going to have Facebook Messenger video calls capabilities, Spotify and Pandora over Bluetooth, voice activated music. You'll be able to watch things like the Facebook Watch programming stuff, and also there's going to be more video content providers coming soon. The nice thing about it is it does turn into a photo and video frame when inactive. Now, we obviously made comments here about privacy. I fully believe that this will be, of course, mined because it's Facebook. Everything is mined. But what the VP of Portal has said was we had to build all the stacks, the hardware, the software, the AI, all from scratch. And that allowed us to build privacy into each one of these layers. Apparently, there's no facial recognition, and instead it's just a 2D technology that runs locally on the device to help track position so that the camera can follow and move around if needed. There's going to be a separate chip that is built into this that only activates the Portal when it hears the wake word. So then that helps sort of isolate and compartmentalize the hardware. And of course, the data connection is encrypted. They did, of course, though, put a physical slide plastic privacy shield on the lens, which is good because I don't think the Echo Show actually has that, does it?
Neither version does.
So that's actually, I think, a smart move. And I would feel much more comfortable having one of these devices with that. But yeah, I don't know. Let's be honest. It's Facebook. Probably going to mine some data, but they are trying to get into that smart home game. And so why would they not?
But not really smart. This doesn't control anything. This allows me to listen to music. It's for lack of a better term, a portal for music, for some video content, and for Facebook services.
I disagree. It's just like an Echo Show. It has Alexa and Google Assistant. So it's more useful than the Amazon devices. I completely disagree with you.
But it doesn't have YouTube or Netflix, so I'm not going to be watching anything on it.
We don't know yet. They said there's more coming soon.
In the article, the lack of YouTube and Netflix is annoying, but Facebook promises there are more video partners to come.
Right. To come, exactly.
But not YouTube and Netflix.
Remember the last time we talked about a product on here that promised both Google Assistant and Amazon Voice Services support and how crappy that was when I had to come and review it? Was the Clausio, whatever the hell device it was that promised all these things, was late, was severely underpowered. It was a hacked together Alexa integration and Google Assistant. You were lucky if it worked every third time you tried it. I'm sorry. I don't trust it. Facebook's got more engineers, they've got more resources to throw to it, but it's not like they're going to open up the Google Assistant API all the way to a third party. It's not like what Amazon does with Amazon Voice Services, which is, oh, you make a speaker, here's the API, here's the stuff you can do. You can do 99.9% of the things an Alexa device, oh crap, an Amazon device will allow you to do with this. But I don't even think they've opened up all the video stuff you have on like the Echo Show so that it would work. So it's probably just a dumb app that listens, but doesn't actually do any of the on-screen stuff that an Echo Show does. This is a product that they're just trying to jump in on the smart speaker revolution, for lack of a better term. Apple can't even pull this off yet. And Facebook thinks they're going to come in and do it. I don't need a Facebook device staring at me on top of the Amazon device staring at me, on top of the Google device in my pocket, on top of the iOS device sitting on my countertop. I don't need another thing staring and looking at me. Like Kent said, not Kent, like Albert said in the chat room, it's Facebook Messenger. If I want to use Messenger, I'll pull out something and use Messenger on it. This is dumb.
Yeah, I get your point about Netflix and YouTube, but if we remember, technically YouTube isn't supported on the show. So I'm not as negative about the lack of features, and I don't actually think that it's as useless as a device as you guys think. So.
All I need to know is it's Facebook, and I am not recommending it or supporting it. So no on the Facebook portal.
No, but in all seriousness, the show does have YouTube support now. They just had to make it kludgy because they couldn't get an app. So it literally opens the Silk browser, the Firefox browser, to the mobile YouTube page, and you do everything that way. That's all part of the ongoing YouTube Amazon war.
Yeah, and I think that you're going to get that with time. With that said, I wouldn't recommend it for the exact same reasons that SP said. I'm not ready to say that it's completely useless, but I'd rather just get something from Amazon directly myself. But yeah, it's I don't know. I'm not going to say go and get one by any means, because definitely a lot of concerns.
I mean, the price point's interesting. They're undercutting the new Echo Show that came out. And I believe they're undercutting what Google is going to announce tomorrow, which is basically their version of the Echo Show, which I think those are all $229-ish. So this is $199, but it's a Facebook product. I don't care about it.
Nope. Not only do I not care about it, but I am actively telling people do not use this. I do not trust Facebook. I would not throw any Facebook device in my house. It's not that I really trust Amazon or Google or anybody else, but I trust Facebook a lot less. And I've got a bone to pick with Zuckerberg for kicking me off Facebook. So no, I'm a hard no on this.
Yeah, it's not like Google would ever leak our data and not tell. Oh, wait.
Whoa. Spoiler alert. Let's wait on that there. Let's go ahead and talk about the Goblin first. What's going on with the Goblin? I'm assuming this is from Spider-Man 1, original, Tobey Maguire, right? That Goblin?
Sure. If you want to talk about Tobey Maguire's Goblin, go ahead, Steven. I'm all ears. Go ahead.
I'm not talking about him as Goblin. I'm talking about the Green Goblin from Spider-Man 1. Amazing, or not Amazing Spider-Man, regular Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire Spider-Man.
Well, you seem to know a lot more about it than I do, so go ahead. Let's talk about the Goblin, and you're going to have to lead the discussion because I don't know anything about it.
Flawless film. There's no problems with that film at all. And you know what? The second sequel, so the third in the trilogy, was just amazing cinema.
And the Goblin is played by Willem Dafoe, who's something of a scientist himself.
Was it an award-winning film?
I think it was actually award-winning. It was award-winning in my heart.
It got a Steven Award.
It did.
Did they get a trophy? Did you mail them a trophy?
They didn't pay for the trophy. They took the podcast award model. That's what they did. All right. So what do you got in your news, SP?
Well, there's been some exciting news around the neighborhood. And by the neighborhood, I'm talking about the solar system. We found a new planet. It is nicknamed the Goblin. Now, here are the details and what it might mean. So, according to a Carnegie Science article that was published on Tuesday, October 2nd, Carnegie Mellon's Scott Shepard, Northern Arizona University's Chad Trulio, and the University of Hawaii's David Tholen discovered a new dwarf planet in our very own solar system. Now, the orbit of this planet gets within only 65 AUs or astronomical units of the sun, And just for comparison, Pluto is sitting out at 34. So it's twice the distance from the sun at its closest than Pluto is. Now, the planet was nicknamed the Goblin, and its orbital perigee, or the farthest point from the sun, is at about 2,300 AUs, which means the orbit periodicity is about 40,000 years. Now, the planet is officially called 2015 TG387 and is temporarily nicknamed the Goblin, and it travels in this extremely large elliptical orbit. You know, I was saying from 65 AUs to 2,300 AUs. Now, Steven, I'll bet you don't know why the planet was named the Goblin.
Because they really liked Spider-Man 1.
They're fans of Willem Dafoe.
Had nothing to do with Spider-Man or William Dafoe, although I would endorse a William Dafoe reference.
Oh, wait, I know what it was. They got one of those big spinny wheels and they put a bunch of names on it and then they just spun it. And it landed on the Goblin.
They might have done that, though, but it would have to have been a Halloween reference. So a wheel full of Halloween reference, because that's when they discovered this. That's when they first observed it, was on Halloween in 2015.
Interesting.
Yeah. Now, the discovery of this planet may lead to more information about the mysterious Planet X. Now, if present in the solar system, Planet X would help shape the orbit of dwarf-like planets in the Oort cloud, like the Goblin. The Goblin, by the way, is only about 300 kilometers across, but Planet X is theorized to be about 10 times more massive than Earth and orbit around the 600 AU distance from the sun on average. Now, this research was funded by a NASA Planetary Astronomy grant. So this is real science, guys. We found this planet called the Goblin, and they're trying to take all the orbital perturbations from the Goblin and like dwarf planets like Pluto into account to try to really pinpoint where Planet X really is.
I like this because of the fact that there's a couple of interesting things that we've had our eye on, like Planet X, and we've got a dwarf planet called the Goblin, and I really like this sort of stuff. I actually heard about, I think it was this, because I didn't actually catch the name, but I think I heard about something like this on a certain other podcast that happens daily. I think I heard about something like this.
I'm curious what show you're talking about.
No comment, SP.
Well, Chris asked you a question. He's curious as to what podcast you might have heard this on.
I don't remember the name.
You've piqued my curiosity, Stephen.
I'm just curious why I don't remember the name. I'm talking about, of course, the Curious Daily podcast that we spoke about last week. Yeah. SP, is that where you got this article from? Is Cody giving you your space news? Is Cody the new director of Secret NASA?
That is incorrect. I found this article via the carnegiescience.edu website, at least the original one. There's been a bunch of different reporting on NBC, on space.com, so on and so forth. But another planet that you might be thinking of is not the Goblin, but Sedna, which is another dwarf-like planet that you might not have known about.
That may have been. I don't remember. All those planets are the same to me. All of them.
So they're all planets to you?
Yes. I don't remember anything.
And not dwarf planets? So what you're saying is that Neil deGrasse Tyson is wrong.
Exactly. Absolutely correct.
You guys heard it here first. SP and Neil deGrasse Tyson are going to have a fist fight over the fate of Pluto.
They already did.
Dude, I'm ready to go because he's not responding to my tweets anymore.
Lace them up. Get those boxing gloves ready. They're the inflatable ones, but they're still going to be used for boxing.
SP, he might not be responding to your tweets, but you can guarantee he has filed a restraining order against you.
The funny thing is, Neil is not actually the one that was responsible for the reclassification of Pluto as a dwarf planet, but he is now taking ownership of it because everybody's blaming him anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, moving on with the news into the extra section here. This first one here is one that comes out of the world of Microsoft. Now, Chris Farrell, should I just let you talk about this one because of the fact that you were the one that dug up this and actually told us that one of us should have made it our news point? I think that you actually threatened to, I think the words were, quote, cut a, stop there and keep it clean.
Wow.
I think that's what you said because we were supposed to take that.
I just offered it up as an option. It's not my fault neither of you chose to take it. But today, Microsoft officially announced what was been rumored and kind of teased at E3 is what they're calling their Project X Cloud service, which will allow you to stream Xbox games, not just to consoles and PCs, but to mobile devices rather, like smartphones and tablets. This setup just went into test right now. Right now, it's set up so there are multiple control methods offered on mobile phones and tablets. The easiest way to do it, pick up your Xbox One controller, pair it with Bluetooth to your tablet, to your phone, and you play it just like you would any other kind of Xbox game. But secondarily, what they're doing is developing a new game-specific touch input overlay to provide response in a minimal footprint, meaning you could pick up your tablet and theoretically just have buttons that appear on screen that allow you to play things like Halo or Sea of Thieves, things like that. They did show in a YouTube video demonstrating it today early footage of the service with people playing Sea of Thieves, entries from the Gears of War and Halo series. However, it's not going to be limited to just first-party titles. This is where it gets interesting. The plan is to implement the service in such a way that no additional work is required to support it from third-party developers. Microsoft's plan to achieve this is in part by running the games on what amounts to native Xbox hardware in its data centers. They're going to deploy this to pretty much all of their data centers as their plan. Now, this isn't anything new. We've heard about cloud gaming before. The difference is Microsoft's got data centers all over the world. They've got bandwidth to spare. Remember, OnLive did this. It was a service that got gobbled up by PlayStation Now, which currently streams PlayStation consoles to a laptop, desktop, or a PlayStation. Google just announced a service for Chrome called Project Stream. You guys might have heard they're actually letting people play the new Assassin's Creed on Project Stream as a beta, which was pretty cool. The goal for this, though, is to make game streaming possible not just on broadband internet in homes, but also on upcoming 5G networks, but it will work on 4G networks as well. However, here's the catch. Microsoft claims the current test experience is basically eating up 10 megabits per second to do it. So it's a bit bandwidth intensive, and they're working ways to minimize that streaming lag, things like that. But it's interesting. It kind of fits into some of the theories we'd heard that Microsoft's going to put two different consoles out here in the future. One that is super powered hardware, you sit in your entertainment center, and the other, which is a dumb box that hooks into the Azure cloud and basically lets you stream your gameplay. So as long as you have a decent internet connection, you don't have to buy a beefy box. You just stream the games. I thought it was really interesting. It's nothing new, but Microsoft getting in on the game, it's interesting because, like I said, they have the hardware to make this happen.
Yeah, and let's be real here. This is something that NVIDIA with their is it the Shield?
Yeah, they have a similar service.
Yeah, exactly. So they've been trying to bark up this tree for a little while as well.
The interesting thing to me is the way it is. You can play it on any of your devices, meaning you could play it on your tablet without a controller. Finding a way to make the controls be touchscreen buttons, that's intriguing, and I don't know how you pull that off very well on everything.
Yeah, if Microsoft is gonna go this way, they could definitely get a little bit of pull because they do have the whole Xbox community that they can sort of target as far as marketing goes. So, it's good to see a big player doing this because I think that they have better success than actually NVIDIA. So I think that's great. It's neat. Very, very neat. But do I think that it'll kick off? If I was a betting man, I would say that it'll get a small following and then die. That's my prediction.
Talk about data mining.
Totally.
They'd be able to reach right into your phone.
It's not like they're not already probably on any of these things.
They're losing out on all that data from Apple phones and from Google phones.
And let's be honest, most of these things, they have to expose the permissions they're getting on your phone when you install the app. At least on Android, it tells me what it gains access to. So I find it unlikely that their streaming app here would require access to my phone, to my email app, or to my text message app and things like that. It'll require the data connection, I'm sure, but on Android at least, they disclose all of the things they're gaining access to.
Mm-hmm. You just wait and see.
Well, it's part of how Android works.
No, you will wait and see what permissions it needs in order to actually function on your phone. Not what it needs, but what permissions you have to enable.
You know, here's the thing, though, Stargate Pioneer. Just because something doesn't request it doesn't mean that they can't give it out to other people, just like Google had this past week. That's right. For those of you who have followed the wonderful world of Google, you might be familiar with the fact that there's this wonderful graveyard called the Google Graveyard. And the Google Graveyard is full, and I'm going to call it that from now on. The Google Graveyard is full of past projects that Google's tried to do and have died. Well, we're pleased to say that there's a new one in there, and it's Google Plus. That's right. Google Plus was Google's attempt to rival Facebook. And honestly, it got a bit of momentum when they launched, but then quickly just died off. And it's been shaky for a while now. Well, Google has announced that they are killing it off because they want to eventually flip it around into a more business-focused thing, and it's going to change. And the reason why I segued to this was because, yes, this is on the heels of apparently there being a massive breach with Google Plus data, and there was a lot of information that was accidentally leaked through a hole in the Google Plus API that allowed people to get access to names and date of births and a whole bunch of other information on those Google Plus profiles. Now, here's the thing. When Google Plus launched, they kind of prided themselves on privacy. So they actually put some different safeguards into Google Plus to help protect the consumer. And one of the things that they put in there was a limit on how much activity data was stored. Allegedly, of course. But this is what they said, was that they had safeguards in so that the Google Plus data logs essentially were limited, which means that this exposure, now that it's been found, apparently can't be backtraced because of the fact that there's only X amount of days of data that are in regards to this API use. So yeah, for Google Plus leaking your data, but a genuine woohoo for Google Plus being dead, because we actually have wanted to see this dead for a while.
When's the last time anyone here ever logged into Google Plus? Be honest.
I logged in today to post that I was thinking about giving it a try.
Of course you did. Of course you did.
I get notifications from the podcast community all the time. Now, do I log in? No. Or I guess I do to get rid of the notifications, but I don't spend any time there and haven't for a long time.
Well, I got to look and see. I think I even uninstalled the pre-installed Google Plus app from my phone. Oh no, it's here right now. I could go to Google Plus, evidently.
I have to say that I'm genuinely looking forward to not getting these stupid podcast community links, because they're always just people who are blasting all the communities because there's nobody on Google Plus. So it's like the same guy who's trying to push his agenda for his podcast company going and copying and pasting onto Google Plus and blasting it and in some smug manner at that.
But do they disclose that they work for that company when they're blasting everything else?
They don't, but they try to charge you for it.
Of course. I should have known.
I know one other person that keeps on going into that community and blasting his agenda, and it has to deal with loudness standards.
All right. Well, the good news out of this, by the way, is this is just another example that here on the GonnaGeek.com show, we know what's happening. When we said that Henry Cavill will end up growing a mustache and having it poorly CGI'd, we were right. And what we are happy to say here is that we called this many, many moons ago. Let's take a walk down memory lane. Should we do that?
Ooh, let's do this, because I don't remember.
Episode 106, July 2015.
All right, let's go ahead and roll into the next news. It is also a website that I have not been on. It's called Google Plus. No, that's not true. I've been on Google Plus, but that is what the news is about. Google this week made a blog post that essentially is the foundation for Google Plus going bye-bye. I'm pretty sure that the writing is now on the wall. I will actually go behind me here and write on the wall that Google Plus will be going away soon. No, I'm not going to do that. But Yes, that's right. Way back in episode 106 or something like that. I think that's what that thing just said. We talked about this. Chris Farrell was not actually on that episode, but JS was. And, for those of you who are seeing the video side of things, I will tell you this. My den is nowhere near as clean as it was then. I am very jealous of that era, Stephen. I actually happened to come across... I watched episode 106 for some random reason like 6 months ago. So when I saw this today, I knew it kind of where it was. And luckily, it was only the second episode that I went hunting. So I was able to find it really quick today. But yep, pour one out for Google Plus. And by pour one out, I mean make sure you actually drink said beverage, because it's even better to drink it than it is Google Plus ever was. Google Plus sucked. Jeez. Cody Goff's going to kill me.
I think he has come to accept the fact that Google Plus is not what it used to be.
Yeah. Stargate Pioneer, I know that for a while there, you were actually the one that out of all three of us really gave it a good solid go. Did you have any success with Google Plus?
It depended on what community you were in. And I believe they shut down new communities a few years ago, or at least a year ago. So you couldn't start a new community. And once they did that, it was all downhill, because if you're not going to grow your community, the community is just going to die. It's just like if you would take your existing community that is out in the open and healthy and growing, and then shove it in a private message app or close it behind a secret Facebook group, and there would be no way to gain access to it, or at least know that it exists. It's not going to grow. I'm sorry. It's going to die off. And that's what happened here.
Fair enough. And finally, in our extra section here, this is just a heads up that you can go ahead and back off that email that you're sending to us right now, or sending to JS, because we know that you're sending hate mail to JS right now saying, why didn't you guys talk about the Google announcement? Well, we record this on Mondays, which means that we haven't actually had that Google announcement yet, but we released the show on Thursday. So
we just know everything that leaked out ahead of time.
We know everything that leaked. We could have just acted like it happened and you would never have been of the wiser, but we're being honest, it happens tomorrow. So don't send your hate mail to us. If there's anything interesting, we'll talk about it next week, but let's be real. There's going to be nothing interesting at all. So let's go ahead and move on to something that is actually interesting, and that is SPs Space Symposium.
You probably know SP from various shows on the Gonna Geek Network, but did you know that outside of podcasting, he's actually the director of the secret government space organization called SNASA? You're about to hear him declassify some Area 51 level secrets in the segment he calls SPs Space Symposium.
We've done quite a few of these space symposiums. For those new to the show, I started off with looking into space telescopes. We did all sorts of space telescopes, from the Hubble and James Webb all the way to my favorite space telescope. And you'll have to go back into episode 209 if you want to know that. And then we started into what I was calling orbital probes, or probes that are unmanned, basically. Maybe I should change it to unmanned probes. Anyway, we started with Sputnik on October 4th, 1957. We talked about that in Gonna Geek 213. And then last time we got all the way to the Soviet Union probe Luna 2 on episode 254. And we talked about how it impacted the moon, quite literally. It impacted the moon. It wasn't like it affected the moon or anything. Well, I guess it did, but they basically shot the moon, literally. Anyway, now we're going to talk about
shot
the next
moon.
No, don't sing.
But
Please
I
don't.
did not shoot Uranus.
Damn it.
You know what? That's worthy of a kudos, Stephen. You were off for 3 days writing that, weren't you?
You know what? This weekend, by the way, to Canadians, happy Thanksgiving. Was Thanksgiving. I canceled Thanksgiving with the family just to write that.
I kind of
It
figured
shows.
you did.
Yeah. Continue.
Well, this week, we're going to talk about the Soviet Union probe Luna 3, which was the first spacecraft to photograph the far side of the moon. And this was the third trip to the moon, successful trip to the moon in 1959 for the Soviets. the United States, still not there. So Luna 2 did indeed photograph the far side of the moon by using a gravity assist maneuver. It took pictures. They sent the images back to Earth using a scan. And it took the United States nearly 5 more years to accomplish the same feat in 1964 with Ranger 7. So let's talk specifics on Luna 3, why it was such a raging success in 1959 and how they made that happen. First of all, I mentioned that it was a gravity assist maneuver. Basically, they shot that probe straight at the moon, and then they were able to angle it as such that they used the gravity of the moon to bend the orbit into an orbit that went around both the Earth and the moon in a large ellipse. But it never made it around one complete orbit before it ran out of power, but that didn't mean it wasn't successful. I'll talk about how it was successful in a second. It was launched on October 4th, 1959, 2 years exactly after Sputnik 1. It was launched from the same place in Baikonur, and it was aboard the same Luna 8K-72 rockets that Luna 1 and Luna 2 were on. It had a mass of 278.5 kilograms, which is around 614 English pounds, which is just a little bit more mass than the engine and transmission on a 2018 GMC Sierra 4x4,
Yes.
probably with a set of tires, at least 2 additional tires. So engine, transmission, and at least 2 tires on a GMC Sierra 4x4.
Whoa. Maybe you can get a dually edition. Is it possible to get a dually on that one? Would that be about the right weight?
GMC Sierra, well, it would have to be like a 1-ton, so it would have to be like a 3,500 in order for that. And we're talking about 1,500, a half-ton truck.
Fair enough. Okay.
I'm just glad you equated the units of measurement. I understand. Thank you, SP.
You're welcome. I did look up exactly the weight of the engine and the transmission, which is 574 English pounds. And then the tires, a set of 4 tires is probably more than 35 pounds, but I think 2 truck tires would be about 35 pounds. So there we go.
Okay, fair.
The dimensions, this was a cylinder, and it had antennas on the top and the bottom, and it was 51 inches long, and it had a circumference at its largest point of 47 inches around the widest point. Now, the mission was to have a spin-stabilized photograph of the far side of the moon and then to transmit those images back to Earth. It had a payload which included 2 cameras, a dual-lens camera called the AFAE1, which included a 200 millimeter focal length and an aperture setting of f-stop of 5.6, and then a 500 millimeter lens with an f-stop of 9.5. This was enabled close-ups as well as far, and they alternated back and forth. It had 40 frames of photography of film on board, so it could take 20 close-ups and 20 far away. It was radiation resistant, 35 millimeter isochrome film, which means black and white. And a photocell was used to detect the moon and orient the cameras towards it. That was also an instrument or a payload on the satellite or on the probe. It also, this is actually amazed me. It had an onboard film processor where the film was developed, fixed, and then dried on board the probe. And then there was a flying spot scanner with a cathode ray tube, and it basically scanned the film, the developed film, and it had a resolution of about 1,000 horizontal lines. And then that was transmitted back to Earth. The problem was they had a power and a heat issue on board the satellite, so it wasn't able to use 100% of its capabilities. And even though it took 29 pictures, only 17 actually got to the Earth, but 17 pictures from the far side of the moon got to Earth following its close flyby 2 days later, like October 6th. I think the film was transmitted by October 18th. So that's how long it took everything. And it wasn't that it took so long to connect like an old baud modem or a fax machine. It was that its available windows to communicate with the dishes back on Earth, the communication dishes, were so small. So they were able to do one photo in one window, communication window, and then another photo and another communication window as it was going around its big orbit around the Earth and the Moon. It did not have any rockets, but it did have gas jets for an attitude control system, which enabled it to both be spin stabilized and then in motionless while it was actually taking the pictures. It had 4 antennas, and it did have 2 scientific instruments, a micrometeoroid sensor and a cosmic ray detectors. In all my research, I didn't see anything of note for the information that they took with those. The scientific discoveries is that they took 29 pictures, 17 were transmitted. The 29 pictures, I'm not sure about the 17, but the 29 pictures covered 70% of the lunar surface based on where they were. Now, we didn't get them all, but that was an incredible find there. So it was just a one-hit wonder. It went up, it took its pictures, and then the batteries basically died, and then it stayed up for, they're saying a year or half a year until April of 2060 or 1960, but there has been some speculation that it actually lasted till 1962, but the official date of deorbit, because it did impact the Earth's atmosphere again in its orbit, was 29 April 1960.
Interesting.
So, guys, this was kind of amazing. I actually heard a little bit about it in college. I didn't delve too deep into it, but first photographs from space that I was able to find out, maybe there was one in low Earth orbit, and then they just didn't take pictures of the Earth. They went to the Moon to take pictures and then got that back. That's amazing.
Totally. And I gotta say that at the risk of throwing myself under the bus a little bit here, I have taken for granted how they did the photographs with some of these devices in, satellites and other space equipment, because I've never really thought about it. I think, fallen victim to the fact that digital has been such a part of my life growing up. I never thought about how they would have taken analog film pictures, like cameras and whatnot, and brought it back, brought the pictures back and sent them back. And this is amazing to me. Like, this is a really clear explanation on how that was done. And I never thought about it until this moment. So you really helped me learn a little bit about that process.
Have you ever seen the movie Ice Station Zebra?
I have not, no.
Okay, well, Ice Station Zebra basically is about trying to get the photographic capsule that has been deorbited from spy satellites. And the Russians had a station in the ice up there in the Arctic, and the Americans had one, and it was a rush to get to the capsule. And if you could get the capsule that the other guys had, you had their film and you could develop their film. That's actually how a lot of the spy satellites started, and even weather satellites started way back in the early 60s of how they did that. This was not that. This was an actual scanner in space. Now, the resolution wasn't all that great.
That's
but
neat.
Yeah, this was the first time that we got pictures from a scanner that far off from the Earth. I'm really impressed at what the Soviets did with all this. Matter of fact, I put a link in the chat room of the photography developing station that they had on board the probe. And it's really neat that the way they were able to put it. Basically, you can think of it in terms of the automatic photo processing. You remember when we used to bring our 35 millimeter film to those little huts out in front of the mall and stuff like that? That's basically it in a nutshell. It's just a little small thing that was able to go up in space.
So what you're saying is that these were actually a cover-up for the weapon called scanners from that, what's that security firm? Consec? I'm making a reference to an obscure film that JS used to always talk about on the show. Scanners. Not familiar with Scanners?
Only in passing.
That's a callback for you long-term Gonna Geek Show fans. There you go. I think he had that on Laserdisc, if I remember correctly.
I remember him talking about it, but I remember, especially after Wing recommended that I go watch all 6 Trancers, that I was not going to watch Scanners. That was not going to happen. So, yeah, and next time I will be talking about the first interplanetary probe, which is American, in Pioneer 5. Now, I know those that know space history are like, whoa, wait, that's not the actual next space probe. No, it's not. I'm not going to go over all the space probes. If we were going to do that, this podcast would be going on long after I died. I'm taking the most notable space probes, and we're going to talk about them, and the next one is Pioneer 5.
Well, thank you very much for always gathering all of these highlights for all of these space exploration milestones. I say it every single time we have an SP Space Symposium, but I genuinely think that this is such an important part of our society, is talking about the past so that we can develop in the future. There was a lot of buzz around space that sure died through the 90s, late 90s, early 2000s. There's just not the hype that used to be there. So the more we talk about it, the better, because we got to get off this rock before Chris blows it up. I believe that he is going to blow it up.
Don't put that on me. I didn't tell you I was going to do that.
Well, you didn't tell me it, but I read your manifesto.
The Gonna Geek app gave permissions on my phone, didn't it? Man.
All right, well, that's going to take us towards the end of the show. Before we wrap up, we'll just take a moment to go around the table, plug and promote, and do whatever we'd like to do. I'm going to kick it off to Stargate Pioneer here first. What do you got on deck over in your neck of the woods, in your world of podcasting and other happenings on the Gonna Geek Network, SP?
I'm going to actually take this opportunity to do a little small rant. So I tried to sell some stuff on eBay, and I've had 2 people actually purchase one of my items and then not pay for it. And I was wondering what the heck was going on. Well, it turns out I don't have that merchant ability to take credit cards. So if the people cannot actually put enough money in their PayPal account, cash in their PayPal account to pay for it, then I can't take their credit cards directly. So I lose out on the sale because I'm not giving money to a merchant capability to do actual credit cards, which can actually take a lot of the percentage. And at the rate that I'm doing transactions on eBay, this is the first time I've tried to sell something on eBay, then I'm not actually going to sign up for an annual or monthly fee to do this. So yeah, that's a little racket that got going on eBay now.
Wow. So you should definitely talk about that in the future edition of SP Rants. It's his new podcast. It's just called SP Rants. You can check that out on the Gonna Geek Network. It's an episode every other day. He's going to rant about something.
The next time the Rebel comes on this podcast, we'll probably talk about it.
Ooh, I'm intrigued.
Chris Farrell, how about yourself? What would you like to plug or promote or rant about?
I don't have anything I want to rant about. I already ranted at the top of the show to get my Gonna Geek paycheck.
That's fair. Well, is there something that you would like to plug or promote?
Sure. I'd just like to remind folks there is a ton of live content here on the Gonna Geek Network. You're probably watching this show right now over on geeks.live. It's the homepage for all of our live content. Scroll down to the bottom of that page right now while I'm talking. You can see a calendar of events of all of the other live shows in the network. I really encourage you, come check out one of those other shows. You're probably going to have just as much fun watching those as you did watching us today. We got a lot of fun stuff coming up.
Awesome. And I'm going to actually specifically call out a certain podcast on the network. I'm going to talk about the Dad.io podcast. So for those of you who have not checked out Dad.io podcast, it's a really neat podcast that I think is great for a modern parent. It's some really good stories about how tech and other geeky stuff is influencing their life as parents. There's a couple of dads on there as well. If you are a foster parent, I think you would have a lot of benefit to listening to this show. So please check that out. It's the Dad.io podcast on the Gonna Geek Network at GonnaGeekNetwork.com. They are our newest member. And, I'm a little disappointed here that the winter is coming because of the fact that I actually saved them for when I was mowing my lawn. I really liked listening to them while I was just doing a mindless task, really being able to focus on the podcast. So I'll have to slap that in to another part of my life because, what am I going to, unless I just go out and mow the snow. I can mow the snow. How do you think about that?
Why don't you just listen to it while you're doing the mindless task of producing the GonnaGeek.com show?
You're right. I will do it when we record better podcasting. You're right.
See?
There you go.
Problem solved.
Problem solved. But that is going to take us to the end of the show. So for episode 258 of the official GonnaGeek.com show, I'm Stephen John Drew. Now that Google Plus is dead, I just don't know where I'm going to find out about how I can pay for a podcast award. I don't know.
And I'm SP saying, check out the GonnaGeek.com network. We would love to see you around.
And I'm Chris Farrell saying Google Plus. Good night, sweet prince. Good night.
Bye.
Thanks for checking out another episode of the official GonnaGeek.com show. If you like the show, please give us a 5-star review in Apple Podcasts or a thumbs up on YouTube. You can always join us for our live recording sessions, which stream Mondays at 8:45 p.m. Eastern at www.geeks.live. And remember, you can find our full back catalog at GonnaGeek.com/show. If you're itching for more geeky content, check out other shows on GonnaGeekNetwork.com. Voice work was by Emily Prokop of the Story Behind podcast. That's it for this episode. We hope to see you back again next week.